Welcome to Forensic Friday,
where we examine the intersection of true crime, psychology, and the heart of being human in the middle of it all. Well, hello, forensic friends.
Hello.
Nat and I are working on getting ahead before fall break,
Yeah.
which when you hear this will be after fall break.
Yep. I hope everyone's having a good fall break because I think this week and next are like a lot of people's break.
Yeah, I never had one in school. Mac, I love his school, but they have a tendency to put teacher workday conferences before a break. So he has 7 days off of school,
Wow.
which is a childcare dilemma.
Yep.
So we are just utilizing grandparents and friends, and then we're gonna go to Vail end of this week, which will be
I
really
love
fun.
that.
I know. We need a little downtime.
Yeah.
So the case we're talking about today is a story that you may have heard before.
Yes.
In 2024, Netflix released Into the Fire, The Lost Daughter, which was a two-part documentary that tells the harrowing true story of a mother's decades-long search for her missing daughter.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that's interesting about this story is it's not just a search for an answer. There's an awful lot of extra stuff in this one,
Yes.
including secrecy, adoption, and kind of family patterns that keep kids silent even before the systems do.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk about a lot of things in depth in this episode that go underneath just the story. So we're going to give you the framework of the story, but we're also going to get into some of the psychology and systems that underpin this story.
I have lots of thoughts on all of it.
Oh, me too. I know. I just told Nat we have our little outline pulled up and I've been like handwriting things and there's arrows. You know,
No,
it's
I
going to be
know.
good when there's arrows handwritten all over your outline, right?
Exactly.
So the documentary opens with Kathy and Ed talking about their relationship.
And I really like them.
They're adorable. They're
I like them so much. I like
absolutely
their
adorable.
story. They're like borderline insane for how quick they got together, but I'm here for it because they just feel and seem like they love each other so much.
They're a perfect example of when you know,
Yep.
because they did. They got married 10 weeks after they met. They met at a bar, of course.
Yeah.
And she did not tell him that she had placed a child for adoption until after they were married.
Right.
So we meet Kathy and Ed, and Kathy starts talking about her missing child
Mm-hmm.
and that she's very frustrated because when she found out her child was missing, it wasn't that this was an unsolved case, it's that it was an uninvestigated case.
Yep.
And it made her furious.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about anger being a motivator. And I think so often we think about managing anger or letting things go so we're not angry. And the truth
Mm-hmm.
is, Melody Beattie in her book Codependent No More, which is a classic,
Mm-hmm.
talks all about anger being a perfectly appropriate motivator in some circumstances.
Well, and my genuine opinion on any emotion is, you know, how we respond on our emotion isn't always the best. Obviously, we work with people who don't respond well on their emotion. However, our emotions tell us something.
Yes.
So when you're angry, her anger makes total sense because she was angry because it was uninvestigated and she was mad. She also didn't really want to give up her daughter when she was 16.
Mm-mm. No. And this is a story of intergenerational patterns, if there ever was one.
Yep.
Because Kathy, as Nat just alluded to, has her own adoption story.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did she not want to place her own daughter for adoption, part of what informed that was her own adoption story.
Mm.
Kathy was adopted as an infant in the 50s.
Mm.
So Kathy grew up in the closed adoption era where there were no biological records, no contact, no answers. And she talks about how she felt like a ghost in her own life.
Hmm.
No origin, no sense of belonging, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Her adoptive parents loved her, but really avoided having these conversations.
Yeah.
And the secrecy was more comfortable than having these conversations about where she came from.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the things that she talks about is that her adoptive mother would smack her around.
Mm-hmm.
And when Kathy got tired of that, she ran off to New Orleans as a quote unquote runaway.
Mm-hmm.
And then she became pregnant at 17.
Hmm.
And so she talks to her family. She's pregnant. And what she's told is, I think, what a lot of people are told, teen mamas, people who get pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
you got to give the baby up. Think about what's best for the baby up, place the baby for adoption, particularly in religious families. There's some pressure of, you can't do this. You can't do this. The baby deserves better. You deserve better. Place the baby for adoption.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy really didn't want to. Now, one of the things in one of the parts of my story that not a lot of people know is my best friend growing up. Her sister had a baby as a teenager, placed the baby for adoption, and it was an open adoption.
Hmm.
Then her sister became pregnant again,
Oh gosh.
and letting go of that first baby was so hard that she kept the second baby.
Mm.
And that baby was at my bridal shower. Like that little baby was helping me open gifts at my bridal shower.
Aw.
But I watched this family, this Christian family, try to navigate all of these pieces: adoption versus raising a baby. What does that look like? And my friend's sister is just an incredible mother, an incredible person. And she has stayed in contact with that first baby that was
Okay.
placed for adoption with a wonderful family, has stayed in touch with him really his whole life
Aw.
to varying degrees. And so she's actually a big advocate for adoption. That's a good story. That's when it works out. But I did see the pain up close. I saw the pain that the grandparents went through. My friend, the aunt, just I got to see that up close.
I went to high school with a girl. She was a year younger than me and got pregnant her junior year and gave that baby up for adoption.
Yeah. And in the good situations, maybe there's communication, maybe even if there's not communication, it really was this child was placed in a better situation and the child grows up being loved and feels valuable. But when
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't happen that way, it's bad. It's
Yeah.
real bad. And the
Yeah.
adoption process can be bad.
Yeah.
It can be beautiful and it can be bad, just like anything else. Adoptees who are raised in secrecy or in a system with a lot of secrecy
Mm-hmm.
often experience genealogical bewilderment and identity diffusion,
Hmm.
meaning they don't have a cohesive sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that Kathy talked about was she didn't know how to prove
Hmm.
at such a young age that she was good enough, worthy enough, capable enough of being a mom
Mm-hmm.
to this
Um,
child.
and her biggest thing was she wanted the kiddo. She wanted to give her daughter a better life than what she felt like she could provide.
Yes. But really, she was forced.
Oh yeah, no,
She
her
was
mom,
essentially forced.
yeah, her mom strongly willed that
And
into.
their reasons didn't land with Kathy, but she just kind of had to accept them because she was 17 and couldn't
Mm-hmm.
do anything different.
Mm-hmm.
What's also especially painful, it's not like it's easy to put an infant up for adoption, but a 9-month-old child that you've been
I was
caring for.
just going to say that I cannot even imagine.
Yes.
I can't even imagine. There's
Yeah.
no way.
So when we think about Kathy in this case, when I tell you this next part, Kathy was like a loaded spring.
Mm-hmm.
She knew somehow deep inside that placing this baby for adoption is not what she wanted. And she felt connected to this baby, thought about this child every day of her whole life.
Mm-hmm.
As Kathy's navigating through her life with Ed, which God bless Ed, I really like Ed.
Ed was like, I'm just here for it. I'm gonna support her. He was in.
He's like, you want to drive to Michigan? We'll drive to Michigan. We'll go to Michigan 15 times. I just so supportive.
Oh, so
So supportive.
supportive.
So in 2010, okay, imagine you're Kathy.
Okay.
2010, all this time has passed since you placed this baby for adoption because you placed the baby in 1975.
Mm-hmm.
So 35 years later, she gets a letter from the adoption agency. And it says the following: 21 years ago, in 1989, a girl who was 14 years old at the time went missing, and they have found an unidentified body, a Jane Doe, and we need your DNA to match with this person, this body that they found, to see if this is your child. Imagine you've thought your entire life every day about this child that you placed for adoption, and you get a letter like this.
No, I know. I cannot imagine.
So they go through it. She submits her DNA. While she's waiting to get the result, Kathy gets invested. Kathy goes, okay, well, I'm not the mom, technically. I have no right or legal standing to go find her, but I'm going to do the best I can. And so she gets online. She's so funny too, talking about how she was not a technology person before this, but now
She's figured it out.
she has figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
And what she finds is that there's a woman who went missing, a girl who went missing right around that same time
In the same area.
in that same area in Hamilton, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to introduce to you Alexis Miranda Badger. That's the name that Kathy gave her baby, Alexis. When Alexis was adopted, her name was changed to Aundria Bowman. So we will use those names interchangeably a little bit just because of who's talking about what. But I actually try to use the name Alexis a bit more because that's what Kathy does. So Kathy found this picture of this girl who went missing, noted their eyes looked very similar, but she couldn't find anything about her anywhere, this Aundria. And so she set up a Facebook page and she called it Find or Finding Aundria M. Bowman. And she sets up this page and she thinks, kids want to find each other after high school, whatever. Oh. She starts getting all kinds of messages. And she gets connected with one member of the family of the adoptive parents. So she also finds them. The adoptive parents were Brenda and Dennis Bowman. They met in high school. Dennis went into Navy boot camp and wanted to marry Brenda. And so when he came home on leave, they got married. They wanted to start a family. Brenda had a double uterus. So they applied for adoption. And years later, they got this miracle adoption baby. And that is how Alexis became Aundria and ended up in Brenda and Dennis's custody and care. Right? Kathy's still researching. Kathy is connecting with people. She finds out that 10 years after Brenda adopted Aundria, she got pregnant unexpectedly because, again, 2 uteruses, which I didn't even know that was a thing. I knew you could have a uterus that's like split, but I didn't know you could 2. Maybe that's what that is. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Brenda doesn't deserve a ton of our time. Um, to be frank.
You're not wrong.
So anyway, Brenda later got pregnant, found out on Father's Day, and Aundria was stoked to be a big sister.
Mm-hmm.
As Kathy is researching and finding out more and more and more
Mm-hmm.
about these things, she finds out that her DNA did not match that body.
Right.
So on the one hand, she's relieved
Mm-hmm.
because it means that her daughter might still be out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the task feels pretty overwhelming, and she connects with a couple of people who decide to help.
Mm.
So Carl, and what is his last name? I have it in here. Let's see. Carl Koppelman. So Carl Koppelman jumped on this case after Kathy kind of pursued him, and he'd been making spreadsheets. He helped kind of make some of these connections. He gets very involved, becomes friends with Kathy, and those two are just like off to the races.
Yep.
And Carl runs the web sleuth site. So basically, Carl has devoted his life to solving these cases, and we still don't fully know why. They don't
Right.
really go into all of it, but Carl's great.
Yes.
So they do that. So then around this same time, Meta McLeod comes out. She was abducted from the same area when
Mm-hmm.
she was 6 years old. And a man had driven up and told her that he would take her to look at puppies at a barn. She gets in the car with him and he's being really nice to her. There was a police officer nearby. He told her to lay down. And then he starts like putting her hair behind her ear and he's being really sweet. And then he pulls over and things get really scary. He puts a rope around her neck and he starts trying to drag her into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary. I'm not going into all of the specifics of it, but it's really scary. But a dog starts barking. It spooks him and he gets up and runs. And he was charged with
When she got away.
she got away. Yeah, he got spooked, ran away. She gets away. She described him in detail.
Mm-hmm.
In just very specific detail, but they weren't able to catch him. They couldn't find him. They weren't able to catch him. And so she sees Kathy's Facebook page, Meta
Mm-hmm.
does,
Mm-hmm.
and she reaches out and shares this experience, thinking maybe this has something to do with Andrea's disappearance.
Yep.
They get connected. Through this process, Meta sees a photo of Andrea's adoptive father,
Mm-hmm.
Dennis. They call him Denny too, which is, ugh. But anyway,
Yeah.
Dennis. And he looked just like the man that attacked her. And all these details start to line up. The old dusty red pickup truck, the voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these details start to match up, even just the proximity. So Kathy, when she finds this out, Kathy says, I saw the fire and I walked right in. And she decides to go to Michigan to go investigate this further. And Ed, who she calls her rock and her unconditional love, goes with her to Michigan, and also her sleuth, who is Carl.
Yes.
Carl's like, let's go.
Yep.
Also, she gets connected with Sue, who's one of Andrea's relatives, who also gets involved. And Kathy and Sue's take is really, we're here to bear witness to Andrea's
Mm-hmm.
story. We're going to figure out what happened for Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a good stopping point for now. So our stopping point is we know a little bit about her life
Yeah.
up until, Brenda got pregnant with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as we know, at that point in the documentary, we know that Kathy was adopted, Andrea was adopted, right?
Yep.
And so far, it looks like Andrea's a pretty normal kiddo. The family's close. It seems like her adoptive parents love her a lot at this point. There's a lot of positive stuff that is out there. That's why it was hard to find issues. But the Facebook page is starting to paint a little bit of a different story. And we have Meta, and she's starting to connect with some people in the family, right?
Yep.
And they start to shed a little bit of doubt
Mm-hmm.
on some of this, right?
Yep.
So Brenda and Dennis, and this comes up a little bit later, but Dennis in particular talks about the fact that she changed a lot when she hit her teenage years, 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
He says it was like a switch was flipped. She started running away, taking drugs from kids at school. They say they took her to a counselor. They actually took her to the pastor. That's going to be important in a minute. But that's kind of what was happening.
What's interesting is there's like some people in the documentary there, I forget who it was, but I think it was a woman, says she was acting like a normal kid.
Mm-hmm.
She was being a normal teenager, back talking to the teachers, getting bad grades. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't think that's what normal kids do.
Well, I think some do.
Yes.
I think some do, but I think there was a lot going on in her world. And
Yes.
so, like a lot of kids, on the one hand, she has these gregarious, outgoing friends, love every one of her friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I have their names in here somewhere. But anyway, oh, here they are. Michelle, Jennifer, Kim, these wonderful friends. Sue,
Mm-hmm.
again, this family member.
Mm-hmm.
She has a lot of love in her life. But also, underneath this big smile, her friends noted she could be a little bit of a chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
She could sort of be one way with some people, a different way with other people.
Yeah.
And the friends on this first trip up to Michigan, okay, these friends who've responded about their girlfriend, Aundria, meet up with Kathy. And the meetup with Sue and Kathy is so amazing. They're like immediately connected. I don't know how to explain it. It's really beautiful. But then the friends, the
The
dearest friends,
the content they had was really hard to hear.
the content they had was hard to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy was so brave. Kathy just, I really loved her take that she's bearing witness. It's almost like as Andrea's mom, as Alexis's mom,
Mm-hmm.
she could at least hear the story. Like she went in there like a soldier. Like, I'm going to hear the stories.
Yep.
So, on the one hand, we have behavioral issues coming up that Dennis and Brenda have talked about, that she had these behavioral issues. And we mostly know that from the police report when she quote unquote ran away / disappeared. But when you talk to the friends, they talk about witnessing some strange things,
Awful things.
awful things. One time, the girls were taking her home and she goes to go in the house and the girls were going to go with her. And she said, no, stay here. She goes to the house and Dennis is chasing her and screaming at her. He grabs her foot and she falls down. Um, Dennis and Brenda, one night, one of the girlfriends was over for dinner. Dennis and Brenda are eating hamburgers, and they hand Andrea and the friend, quote, leftover sandwiches.
Which is ketchup, mustard, and like a relish or something.
Disgusting.
And that's it. No meat, nothing.
Nothing. And during that incident, Dennis at one point hit Andrea so hard it knocked her out of her chair. And she was sitting there sobbing, and Brenda did nothing. And then it really culminated in Andrea hiding from her adoptive parents for days after Dennis, quote, made her do sexual things.
Mm-hmm.
And she and Andrea, this friend, and Andrea went in and spoke to the principal.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy says, and this was so sweet, actually teared me up a little bit. Kathy says, that makes me so proud.
Mm-hmm.
She was so brave. That makes me so proud. Brenda accused Andrea of lying. And the school, when they called the parents in, asked her in front of her parents.
Which is awful.
And y'all, listen, we,
Mhm.
Nat already knows what I'm going to say. We were involved with a really difficult family dynamic. And there were, I don't know, 30 to 40 human services reports, maybe
Mhm.
more. I mean, it was
Mhm.
unbelievable. So frustrating, so hard. Tears were shed by
Mhm.
the therapist in this situation. It was really
Mhm.
challenging. Well, the dingbat of a human services person who no longer does that work, by the way.
Big surprise.
A big surprise. I may have expedited that. I'm not going to lie to you. Went to the house and would just interview the children in front of the parents,
Mhm.
which doesn't help anything. And so um, we had to teach him some things, didn't we?
Mhm.
We had to teach him some things
Mhm.
about how to do this work. It's unfortunate, and caseworkers have really difficult jobs and huge caseloads and everything else. But like the number one rule is you don't interview the
Mhm.
kid in front of the parents. When
Mm-mm.
you have a
Ever.
disclosure like this, absolutely not.
Never.
And the other thing that's hard sometimes about DHS is they're not always consistent.
Mhm.
So sometimes they don't get involved at all, and other times they get super involved over minor things. It's just,
Mhm.
there's like no rhyme or reason sometimes.
Well, and it doesn't even sound like DHS got involved in Andrea's case because the school was handling it and they didn't handle it well.
Right.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't get involved because of the school. But the problem is when you are asking kids in front of the potential abuser, they're not going to tell you the truth. And then they took her over to the
Oh.
church and
Yeah.
she admitted she was lying in front of the pastor. That's what she said. Well, what
Mhm.
are you supposed to say when you're standing in front of the pastor and
Mhm.
the two of the scariest people on earth are breathing down your neck?
Mhm.
You're gonna
No one's going to protect you in that
no
situation.
one's gonna protect you, clearly.
Yeah, no, that was really bad.
And one of
Her
the things,
whole case, I was pretty pissed by the time I was done with the documentary.
oh, 100%. One of the things that, again, Kathy said that just teared me up was she said she's begging for her life.
Mhm.
The kids did more than the adults. The kids, these friends that she had would let her sneak in or come stay with them,
Mhm.
bring extra food, go with them to the principal, try to be with her when she got home from school. Like the kids were trying to
Mhm.
protect Andrea,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So, real quick, I wanted to discuss with you at this juncture, and then we're going to get into the day she disappeared.
Mhm.
How do you know, Nat? And we don't have to get into all the specifics, but how do you know the difference between bad behavior in a child where they're just misbehaving,
Mhm.
or even maybe they have reactive attachment disorder? Maybe they're adopted, and so there is a little bit of behavioral stuff just from attachment that we can see.
Mhm.
And most adoptive parents go through some form of training and understand some of these things.
Mhm.
And then signs of abuse.
Mhm. Well, I think what's interesting, well, this is what I was kind of getting at earlier,
Hmm.
right? So when that lady said, well, she was kind of a normal teen, she was doing these things, and I was like, that's not like yes, teens do that, but it's not normal behavior.
Mm-mm.
One, because there was a shift that people noticed,
Yes.
right? So there was a shift from when she was a little kid to a teenager. Big enough, not like hormonal shift, right? There's that.
Right.
There was a big enough shift for everyone to see the difference.
Yes.
I think the thing that I kept going back to was how did this man not abuse what did the abuse look like before she turned into a teenager?
Mhm.
Which also told me a little bit about his typology
Yes.
and what he, for lack of better ways to say this, was into,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the fact that there was a big shift tells you something's going on.
Something changed.
Something changed.
Yeah.
And bad behavior, right? Like teens can have bad behavior. However, it doesn't become super consistent, in my opinion,
Hmm.
if family's stable.
Yes.
That's not always true. I know that's not always true. Okay. and also the majority.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here thinking, when I'm listening to, well, there was a big shift that happened. I'm like, okay, well, obviously something changed, but it is hard for me to believe that he wasn't doing something before then. The documentary didn't go into that.
I would agree with that, Nat, because when we look at what he did to Meta,
Awful.
right? Awful. And she was 6.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're going to get into Dennis. Dennis is an episode in and of himself. But when we're looking at children, because some of you are listening, you're like, geez, like, are my kids okay? What's going on? There's a bunch of really good resources out there about telling the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking about reactive attachment, let's say you're an adoptive mama, and
Mm-hmm.
some of you out there have adopted. One of our dearest friends has adopted the coolest kid on the planet. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're listening, you know who you are, and I adore you.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, girl's a handful. And she knows it. She also runs stuff. She's one of the smartest people I've ever known.
Mm-hmm.
She's so strong. But did she show some of these behaviors? Sure. Like
Yes.
reactive attachment behaviors, particularly when you're adopted or you've had disruptions in
Yes.
your primary caregivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might have avoidance of eye contact. You might be a little bit manipulative,
Mm-hmm.
or controlling. Usually that's to maintain safety or control. You may have a little bit of indifference to comfort when you're upset, which means you may look like you don't even want to be comforted or get annoyed when you're comforted. Or you may be extremely independent and have parentified behavior where you're taking care of your caregivers because maybe you experience that, or maybe that's how you know you can stay in a situation. And we see a lot of that in like foster care where people get bounced around.
Mm-hmm.
You may have superficial charm with strangers, but be really hostile towards your primary caregivers. That's a fun one for the caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
That's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then also emotional detachment, which is actually one way that people deal with fear of abandonment. So
Yes.
that's reactive attachment disorder. And these
Yes.
behaviors can look really intense. But if you've adopted, whether through foster care, international, domestic, doesn't matter, usually the people that you're working on the adoption with give you some training into those behaviors and how to handle
Mm-hmm.
those behaviors. There's an amazing resource, Beyond Logic, Consequences, and Control. Because Love and Logic is a really good model for parenting. It's kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
choose your own adventure game, which I like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond Logic is a really great book for kids who can't respond in a logical way because they've had trauma and attachment disruption. So that's a great book. If you have adopted kiddos at home, I would highly recommend that. The overlap between that and then signs of abuse is sometimes pretty significant.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
some of the behaviors you might see if someone's being abused or they're just having reactive attachment might be defiance, being withdrawn, or being overly compliant. If we see any of those, that can indicate one or the other or both.
Mm-hmm.
Mood dysregulation, inconsistent affect, mistrust, avoiding intimacy. They can just, again, appear manipulative, but for different reasons, right? With abuse, it's defensive survival. With reactive attachment disorder, it's more of kind of a trauma response. Now, what I will say is anytime you see a sudden shift in your kids, it's really good to kind of get in there and figure out what's going on. And we all have children in our lives. Some of us work with them professionally. Stay very, very curious. And one of the questions that I want you guys to be noodling on through the rest of this conversation, but also into your week, and maybe we'll put some resources out there. When we label a child as oppositional, manipulative, or avoidant, you also have to ask yourself, is this a symptom of survival or a sign of ongoing harm? Meaning, if a kid is acting up, one of the first things you can ask yourself is what is driving this? most children are not bad to be bad. They're not bad
Mm-mm.
anyway, but they're not doing bad things because they're bad people. They're
No.
acting up out of some kind of a deeper
Yes.
situation,
Yes.
right? So, Nat, I was wondering if you want to take us into her disappearance.
Sure. Well, I was gonna say when you were talking about just now about kids don't act up just to act up. I remember, so when I was, gosh, I just graduated high school and I worked for like a day camp at the country club that we lived by
Yeah.
in Springs. And I remember we got these two kiddos from this family. And I don't remember their names. Obviously, even if I did, I wouldn't say it. But I remember they can, and this was like a really fancy country club because we lived over by the Broadmoor at that time.
Hmm.
And that's where I was working. And so this family comes up, and I just remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this family before because a lot of the members there, you like know them and you get to know them. I was not a member, I just worked there.
Oh, totally.
But I was like, okay, I've never met this family, but meeting the family, I could tell that they were out of town. And just based on like some of the things they said, I was like, okay, like they aren't members here, probably different social economic status.
Hmm.
Totally fine, right?
Hmm.
We get these two kiddos, the son, boy, girl. The son, first day there, acting up like crazy,
Hmm.
just acting out, acting up. And I'm sitting there wondering, and I was like, what is going on? Because their daughter was pretty quiet, but just like good, well behaved, but quiet.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, okay, this kiddo has something going on,
Hmm.
right? Long story short, this is what you talking about. This just made me think of this. Long story short, he was getting bullied and he had never been bullied before.
Hmm.
But his behavior had shifted so much because I remember talking to the parents and I was like, hey, I don't know you guys. Your kids are great. However, I don't know your son. And we were trying to figure it out. And they're like, this is so weird. He's normally not like this.
Hmm.
Um, well, parents had to, and they shared this with me, which was really sweet. Actually, it wasn't parents, it was a single mom, and she had like a male family member who was helping, maybe her brother or something. I don't remember.
Hmm.
But she was like, I've had to get a second job. And so, I think that was impacting him. And then that was also when he started getting bullied. And I was like, oh, so you saying be vigilant, like pay attention.
Yes.
Again, your kids aren't just trying to be bad. And so the way we interacted with that kiddo was like, okay, we're not going to reward the negative behavior, but we are going to get curious and we're going to reward the heck out of the good.
Yes.
And man, did that kid shift his tune.
Mm.
I know. So anyway, that's
The best therapists I know
mm-hmm,
work from a little bit of a lens of attachment,
mm-hmm.
including how they attach to us. We
Yes.
treat them. What did things look
Yes.
like growing up? And so that curiosity, like we have so many parents that listen, I'm a parent, you're a parent. That curiosity is just everything.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know? They're
Yep.
not just being a jerk. There's a something is happening.
Yeah.
Something is happening.
Yes. Anyway, I had to share that because I remember thinking back then, I was like, man, all this kiddo needed was a little bit of room, and he didn't want to share what was going on, but he eventually did, which is how we found out.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, okay, sorry, back to this story. So the disappearance, I love what you wrote here, how a misread child became an invisible victim.
Hmm.
So March 11th, 1989, Aundria, age 14, vanished after an argument with Dennis.
Hmm.
As you guys know, at this point, we don't like Dennis.
Mm-mm. No. You're
He
about to
claimed
not like Dennis also in a big way.
in a big way.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, this a-hole. Anyway, I'm so proud of myself. I have not sworn as much because I have a child now.
So proud of you.
No,
Mother trucker.
I know. Tina should be proud too.
Hmm.
So she vanishes. He claims she's a runaway because let's be real, Dennis is, you know, what he says apparently is listened to, which is ridiculous.
The hair on the back of my neck stands up anytime somebody calls somebody a runaway
Yeah.
because I worked with juveniles
Yep.
when I was first in the field, and they would end up at the JAC, the Juvenile
Uh-huh.
Assessment Center. And it was like, oh, it's another runaway, and the police didn't want to investigate. They're actually better about it now than they used to be. They
Mm-hmm.
just were like, these kids just have behavioral issues, and then they put them in inpatient facilities. It was awful.
No, I know. It was terrible. We know some people who worked in those too.
We sure do.
So police recorded it as a voluntary absence. So yeah, they were like, yeah, she's not a runaway.
Mm-mm. She's got behavioral issues, nothing to see here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So no search, no forensic sweep, no interviews with peers.
And again, this was the 80s. This was a thing in the 80s that it was like, we are not going to investigate when this kid runs away. It wasn't like it is now.
Yeah. So
And she had quote unquote known behavioral issues, right? Like she had been
right.
labeled as that.
Yes. So no one
Oh,
searched.
and I'm so sorry, Nat. This is not in
What?
there. But the other thing, the story that police were told
Mhm.
was that Dennis took her to school
Mm-hmm.
and picked her up from school. She was quiet when she got home from school. Brenda worked second shift, so Dennis dropped Brenda off at work.
Mm-hmm.
When he got home, went to the bedroom and saw that the room was busted open. Apparently, there was a lock on their bedroom door that was busted open.
Mm-hmm.
An overnight bag was gone. Cash in an envelope was gone. Apparently, there was some cash from their tax return in an envelope that was gone.
Mm-hmm.
There was change taken even from like the baby bank, and she and her purple coat was missing. And apparently, they called police right away.
Yeah. According to the story.
Yes. And then one of the things that Dennis said that hit me wrong, he said, we hunted and hunted for her. That was something that he said that was just a weird. I've never seen a missing person case where somebody says, we hunted for them.
Yeah, that's
It's a
weird.
weird way to say it. But anyway,
He sucks.
but the family member, Sue,
He's
Dennis
awful.
never told the family
Mm-mm.
that she had taken a bag and all those pieces. That was to the police.
Yes. Yes.
So there's that.
Yeah, there's no search, no forensic sweep, nothing like that. Essentially, she, like as you said, she was labeled as having behavioral issues, and Kathy was unaware that her daughter had disappeared. Well, it was a closed adoption also.
Right.
But she was, I mean, vigilant at wanting to search.
Yes. So she always kind of wondered where her daughter was, and then she got tagged in 2010.
Yep.
So law enforcement ultimately reopened the case. They
Yep.
cross-referenced dental records, age progressions, and DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got into CODIS. They did digital face reconstruction. So all of that stuff. And then they really decided that they were going to try to find her killer. So they didn't have her remains.
Right.
But they got really motivated to find her killer, and they suspected that it was Dennis. And
Yeah.
Dennis goes nuts. Or
Well,
not,
I was just gonna say,
Kathy goes nuts.
yeah, Kathy was like, she was gonna burn it down.
Yes.
And she did burn it down. Spoiler alert. But
Yes.
what do you think?
Uh-huh.
What do you think Dennis was feeling when they reopened the case?
Oh, I think things were tightening on Dennis.
Oh, I think his butthole tightened.
He was tightening things. Here's what I think. I think that Kathy straight up menaced Dennis. If this happened
They
today,
borderline were gonna get a harassment charge against
they
her.
had every right to have harassment charges,
yes.
to
Well,
be frank.
what's her face? Brenda threatened to.
Yeah, Brenda, good luck, buddy.
Yeah,
But
Brenda, shut up.
but
Sit
the
in your
police
corner.
probably would have taken that pretty seriously, to be honest.
Yeah.
We talk about like Ellen Greenberg, right? There was
Yeah.
common sense applied.
Yeah.
She did run the risk. Kathy ran the risk in getting in trouble. She just did not give a shit.
She did not care at
She did
all.
not care.
She
And
was
so
like, I'm gonna figure this out and we're gonna go there.
signs,
Mm-hmm.
billboards.
Mm-hmm.
She would call and leave messages, and then it would hang up, and she'd call back again and leave the rest of the message.
Mm-hmm.
She let them have it.
Well, then they find out that Dennis, so he gets arrested,
Yes.
killing another woman
Yes.
in a different state.
In Norfolk, Virginia.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So that's where they finally get him on
Yes.
something because they're like, something's weird with this dude because he has this other record, right? He has the record with Meta,
Yep.
which the adoption system. I'm like, how in the actual hell did they miss that?
Well, they didn't know that it was him. So she filed a report, but they didn't know it was him until Meta
No.
said, that's the guy.
Well, but he got caught a different time because he had a record.
Well, these were the cases, though. It wasn't Meta. These were
Okay.
the cases. So there were two cases.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, our buddy Carl, who Carl, buddy, like you are a forensic bestie for life. Like you're out
Mm-hmm.
here doing
Mm-hmm.
work. Carl introduced Kathy to the Freedom of Information Act.
Mm.
So they get into the records, and here were his two cases. And this is the thing.
Okay.
Okay, this is the thing. The first case was stalking and breaking and entering
Yes.
because they found Dennis with a duffel bag containing women's lingerie, which is like
Yes.
a
Yes. Yes. Yes.
serial
Yes.
killer's,
Yep.
it's on the serial killer ladder, right? You're on your
Yep.
way up the ladder. He had a mask to conceal his identity and an illegal sawed-off shotgun. He spent a year in jail, and that was a felony. And that was before 1980. So
Yes.
absolutely, he had already done time
Four really insane things.
for this crazy case before they adopted.
So that's what I'm saying though. So you're right. It wasn't Meta, but
No, it
there
was
was,
after. It was after they adopted, but it was around the same time. It was
yeah.
around the same time.
No, but he had something before they adopted because I remember thinking there's no way that I cannot believe the adoption system dropped the ball that
Well,
bad.
here's what happened. So here's the other weird thing. Okay, so the first thing happened, I don't have the year on that. The second thing was in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Aundria was 6 when he was sentenced for this one. But in 1980, when Dennis was in his 30s, he ordered a teenage girl to get off her bike
Yes.
and run into the woods.
Yes.
He shot past her, he shot in front of her foot, he told her to go into the woods. Just then, someone helped her, like saw her,
Mm-hmm.
drove their pickup truck over, threw the
Mm-hmm.
bike in the car, and drove off with the kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid could identify Dennis. When Dennis got arrested, he told police, well, I need to go. You need to let me go because I have to go pick up my daughter.
Mm-hmm. I know. What an idiot.
The report, what he was charged with was assault with intent to commit criminal sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
It said in his report that he was a danger to women if not confined. And Andrea was 6 years old at the time, and he was sentenced and ordered to serve 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
He got out of prison. And by the way, Brenda took her to visit this guy in prison.
Right.
So Brenda knew what he was capable of
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
He gets released after a 5-year prison stint. So Andrea was 11 when he got out. Shift
Yeah.
much? We have a behavioral shift, 11, 12, 13. What's different?
Right.
Dennis
Right.
is what's different.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
The family is shocked that Brenda stayed with him when she had this young daughter.
Yep.
And Kathy, at that moment, when she found out about those two cases,
Mm-hmm.
became convinced that Dennis molested Andrea and murdered her.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
And she said, and I quote, and this is like, put it on a t-shirt, this is all of us. If I have to get crazy, I will. And that's when she really got crazy.
Yeah. And that's when they wanted to file harassment.
Billboards, the drone. They fired up a drone and
Oh,
drove it
yeah,
over
no.
the backyard. I mean, it's
Yeah, no.
incredible.
Kathy was no BS.
No, Kathy was all over it.
Yes. So then in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
Dennis confesses to killing Andrea
Mm-hmm.
after renewed investigative pressure. So people were like, the investigators were like, dude, something's up. Because he's now doing prison time for the other murder that they connected him to. So he's already in the prison system.
That's the part we got to connect. So the Norfolk, Virginia, he gets arrested.
Yep.
Kathy's like, oh, looky
Yep.
here, right?
Yep.
It's a totally separate thing. He murdered this woman. And when that happened, it was 1980 was when he murdered that woman.
Yep. No, it was a while before.
1980. So right
Yep.
before the thing happened, with that teenage kid, he
Yep.
had murdered a woman
Yep.
in her home after she'd been hanging out with her friends. That's what
Yes.
happened.
Yep. So they, because of
Because
the,
of that case.
well, yes, because of that case, but what I was going to say is because of the new ways that they can do DNA stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that's how they busted him for that case so long ago.
That's
So
right.
he's in prison and they're like, all right, Kathy's not giving up on this.
Mm-mm.
And the investigators and detectives went back in to try to figure out what happened to Andrea. You know what's crazy to me is
Hmm.
he says at first, he goes, you know, you don't do this to family. You do this to other people. You don't do this to family. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, even if that's true, first of all, it's not really true, but even if that's true, technically Andrea is not your family.
That's right.
And in his brain, if he didn't do it to family, which I do believe he would have done it to his biological daughter at some point,
Yep.
even if that was true, he had already divided that in his brain. He did not see Andrea as his family.
Yep.
So they put the pressure on. He starts talking. They got a search warrant because Kathy was like dead ass. She's in the backyard.
Oh, Kathy, the
She knew
drone.
exactly
She knew
where.
exactly. She goes 20 feet off the back door.
Oh, yeah. She said this spot for some reason keeps changing.
Yes.
Like something about it just kept changing over time. And she's like, something's there, something's there.
Kathy should have been paid a salary to run this down the way she did.
Yeah.
Mm.
My favorite is at the end when the investigators were like, usually we like, did we think she was crazy at first? Yes, but she was spot on the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, most of the time, that's not how this goes. I'm like, well, you take a like a biological mother,
Mm.
and they feel a connection to their kiddo, game over.
Oh, we'll put a pin on a map.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
So they get the search warrant.
They find her on their property.
Mm-hmm.
The gross part is God, he comes up with this elaborate story to tell Brenda, which is just disgusting. Do you
Oh,
remember this part? So
I have it.
at first he says, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. And then he says that he did it, but that he like got rid of her body in a really disgusting way. But
Like a
then,
burial, like a white sheet, and
well,
like
that was
because she
after.
because she'd fallen. Remember, it was like she fell
Yes.
and hit her head, and I hid the
Broke her neck and whatever. But
yeah,
at first, he talks about how he disposed of her body in a way that was like really just inhumane. But then he backs up and says, no,
that's
this
right.
is what I really did with her body. And he like paints this really weird picture. I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, like even that tells us everything about you.
Oh yeah.
White sheet, red ribbon around her ankles, and
Oh yeah.
smell, scents of like sage or whatever the hell he said.
Oh yeah.
He buried her with dirty diapers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember what else. That was the one part and wrappers,
Peppermint
candy
patty.
wrappers. Yeah.
Peppermint patties. Uh-huh. Which
Anyway,
also the combination of that alone, you would have smelled it 10 miles away.
awful. Awful.
Mm.
As the detective saw, and us as viewers, his confession showed minimization and rationalization. He basically blamed her for her own death,
Yep.
literally. So classic traits of coercion and control for, with offenders, power and control, which is what you and I talk about all the time.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to go into this next part, forensic, the psychology lens.
Oh, sure. When you look at the confession, first of all, the shifting confession,
Yes.
it's what we called an instrumental confession, not a genuine confession. So he was confessing because his goose was cooked. He was going to
Okay.
be in prison for life anyway.
I was gonna say, for our listeners, can you maybe define what an instrumental confession is?
Yeah, it's just kind of like people give up and they just give the basic
Mm-hmm.
details, but it doesn't necessarily come from a spontaneous, genuine emotional place. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, whatever. And
Yes.
it can shift and change and move, but it's something. It's like they're stuck, they know it, and so they're just going to say the thing.
Yep.
And he was a narcissistic and controlling offender. And so for him, I honestly think part of why they adopted was this narcissistic need to seem, you know, like they're doing something. It's almost BTK
Mm-hmm.
killer, right? It's I'm a upstanding citizen. I go to church. We adopted this child, like blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the scenes, I mean, he's killed people. The woman that he's in prison for killing was not a first attempt. None
No.
of the stuff that he did was a first attempt. So all of them agree he has a giant history. We know of 2 murders. There are many more. He is a literal serial killer. And Kathy not leaving it alone is what finally really did it
Mm-hmm.
because it put such a spotlight on him.
Yep. Yep.
Now, Kathy's reaction to all of this was sorrow
Mm-hmm.
to know that she died. And also, even Brenda was big mad about how the body was discarded, which, okay, Brenda, sit down. Like you're literally
Well, and what's so
complicit.
interesting is Kathy and Brenda, we didn't even talk about this. Kathy and Brenda initially met at a support group for missing individuals.
Oh, they had a throwdown.
Yeah, no, they really did.
Well, because Brenda was like, and there's 2 moms here missing, and she's like, tell him about your husband. Like worked up. She goes, I went Jerry Springer.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what I
no,
said.
Kathy was on
I
fire.
went full Jerry Springer.
Hmm.
You know?
I love this next part that we have here in terms of, well, I don't love it. I hate it, but I think it's so important to talk about
Mm-hmm.
of the failures in the system and policy implications. So I already talked a little bit about the adoption process and how they royally screwed that up.
Mm.
They, yep, like you said, they limited the follow-up here.
Mm-hmm.
Inadequate background checks because I know one of his cases was before she was adopted. And
Yeah.
then they, closed all the records. And,
Mm-hmm.
I understand why people do closed adoptions versus open and whatever, but even that, it's like sometimes there's just such secrecy with that.
Oh yeah.
Child welfare, welfare and law enforcement, this was terrible.
Mm.
So for a school, and I mean, I want to say granted, like this was quite some time ago, but regardless, they dropped the ball. The school should have reported it no matter what the parents said, and they should not have, as you mentioned, asked her questions in front of her parents. That was, I mean, I don't know what adult thinks that that's gonna help,
Mm.
but they dropped the ball.
One of my favorite educational pieces when
Hmm.
I'm in any medical situation, and they do this a lot when you're pregnant,
Hmm.
and they're doing it increasingly for women across the board, as they say, do you feel safe at home?
Yes, well, and they actually don't let your husband come back until about 10 minutes after your appointment starts.
That depends on your provider. So I've been asked this question probably no less than 20 times with Garrett standing right next to me.
Wow.
So I got somebody who's, 6'3", 6'4", 240 standing next to
Hmm.
me. And
Hmm.
you're going to ask me if I'm safe at home? What do you think I'm going to say?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I will usually take that opportunity to say, hey, I love that you're asking this question. It
Mm-hmm.
would be so good if you could catch a woman alone to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Because if she even looks at you wrong, she's going to pay for it later.
Yep.
It's actually making it more dangerous.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
what you said was so encouraging that when you were pregnant, they really did ask you this alone.
Oh yeah. So they would ask me to come back and they would say, "Hey, we'll come get you." And they don't even say we're going to ask her questions. They say we're just going to do like her weight and,
For normal stuff.
yeah, like blood pressure and all that and then we'll come get you when we get a room.
Yeah.
They don't even say like we have questions. No, they just say we're going to do the normal stuff and then once we get her in a room, we'll bring you back.
That might be the one thing I agree with Kaiser on. Good job, Kaiser.
They did something right.
Something right.
So child welfare, I mean, they didn't even have a chance of getting involved because everyone else dropped the ball before it could even get to them.
Yep.
Law enforcement did not do their job well.
Mm-mm.
The school system did not do their job well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes to what you were saying at the beginning. Adoption is a really beautiful thing. And also, there can be I have heard of not a lot, but the stories that I've heard of with adopted kiddos being abused are severe.
Well, here's the problem. It's vulnerable. It's a vulnerable population. Nursing
Yes,
homes, vulnerable.
yes,
Hospitals, vulnerable.
yes,
Daycare, vulnerable.
yes,
Adoption, in some ways, is the most vulnerable. And
yes.
there's a big bias towards adoptive parents
Mm,
being, these just unbelievably wonderful humans who would take in a baby that's, quote, not their own. And
mm-hmm,
there's this truth to a lot of that. I know some incredible foster parents and adoptive parents who really have made an incredible difference in their kids' lives. But
mm-hmm,
really great adoptive parents understand the tragedy
mm-hmm.
that has to happen for a child to be adopted no matter what. It's a breach of attachment no matter what, even in the
Yeah.
best case scenario.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
And really good adoptive parents have a humility and an understanding and a curiosity around all of that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
People can also be horribly abused, trafficked, all kinds of things
mm-hmm.
in the name of adoption. And
Yes.
so the cultural view, if we give adoptive parents too much credit,
Mm-hmm,
then we're actually potentially not seeing a fuller picture and it puts kids at risk.
mm-hmm,
Now, the same side of that same coin, though, is if you are an adoptive parent, your child is going to behave like a total handful sometimes, and people don't handle that well either. So then
mm-hmm.
your kid's freaking out at Target and everybody's looking at you like, well, what's the matter with you? Right. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
very brave to be a foster parent. It's difficult to be a good adoptive parent,
Yes. Yep.
you know? But I
Yep.
think avoiding assumption is important.
Yes. Very important. And then,
So if you are into, if you, let's say you're in the forensic system like we are, the court
okay.
system,
Yep.
we're doing evaluations all the time. Understanding adoption history and incorporating that into risk assessment is really important,
Mm-hmm.
including being really humane. You and I have talked about, and I don't think he would mind me sharing this. There's a man that we've worked with who was in the foster care system, and if you get him 3 minutes late for his appointment, he's really on edge.
Mm-hmm.
He's really on edge. Our clients who have major disruption in their attachment
Mm-hmm.
are struggling
Mm-hmm.
all the time with this stuff.
Yep.
Mandated review of missing foster and adopted children's cases, that should be a mandatory review. We should
Yeah.
not have a runaway label on any of these folks. That should get investigated every single time.
Yep. Yep.
And then really educating specifically teachers, communities on differentiating between trauma related and abuse based behaviors
Mm-hmm.
and working through that and having people who specialize that in is a way that we can take care of children within the system and
Mm-hmm.
even adults within the system who were in the system as children.
I love all that.
And one of the biggest things about this, I think, is to look at the intergenerational pattern with Kathy, where you
Mm-hmm.
had Kathy was adopted, was abused, had a baby under duress and a lot of pressure, placed that baby for adoption. Then that child is abused, disappears, runs away, disappears.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that she even ran away. I think he just killed
Mm-hmm.
her, to be frank, while mom
Yeah,
was at work, but
I don't think she went anywhere.
whatever. Um, but I think Kathy fought for not only her daughter, but for adoptees in general.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the quotes that I have from her was being adopted taught me what it means to be lost. Losing Aundria taught me what it means to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when she talks about Into the Fire, the title of the documentary, she really sees this whole process as something that shaped who she was. But
Mm-hmm.
then I look on a human level at the healing this family member, Sue, who suspected Dennis,
Mm-hmm.
getting connected to Kathy and talking about Andrea, Alexis, right? Like the friends.
Mm-hmm.
Meta, one of the sweetest things. I wrote this in my notes. I have to find it though. Oh, Kathy and Meta. Meta calls Kathy her soul mama,
I know, I love
but
that.
they have this really precious connection. And that just put a whole bunch of gas in the tank for Kathy. It like
Yeah.
doubled her motivation.
Yeah.
So I really do think that this is such a tragedy, but there's so much beauty in some of the relationships that were built. The friends that fought so hard for their friend, getting connected with her biological mother.
Mm-hmm. And seeing her biological mother fight for her, whereas Brenda's just
Oh,
sitting on her ass doing
oh,
nothing.
Brenda.
Sorry, cuss word came out.
That's okay. Ass is humane with these people.
I agree. I love this next part that you have, and this is one of the things I took notes on. Not in the same way, but how do we look at misbehaving children
Mm-hmm.
and misbehavior? Oftentimes, and I love how you wrote this, comes from pain.
Mm-hmm.
And what looks like silence is often survival. So it's so important to look at, especially as you were saying, the adoption. If you are an adoptive parent, and you probably hopefully know better than we do
Mm,
because you've done the research and you've gone to hopefully some therapy and have good solid support around you. Looking at those behaviors in a different way, I promise will help you change your perspective. It might not change your kiddo's behavior,
mm-hmm.
but it will help you see them differently.
And there are trained professionals who specialize in working with children. Southeast, where we work, we have some of the best play therapists in the whole state working with these kids, and it's magic what they're able to
Yes.
do. And
Yeah.
kids can work through that trauma.
Yeah. I have, and I've mentioned these cousins on here before. I have two cousins from Russia who were adopted.
Yeah.
And different orphanages. I won't get into all their stuff. But one of them has had typically a harder time in
Mm-hmm.
society. And I will tell you, the parents who are very dear friends of my parents love both of their kids as if they are their own. And it doesn't matter what the one who struggles more does. They love that kiddo no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
They also have super solid support and have had to learn what really healthy, strong boundaries mean because this kiddo is now an adult and is capable of a lot more than he was when he was a kid. But they look at him and they say, they look at the attachment issues, they look at the orphanage that each of them were brought up in their first, less they were adopted as infants, not newborns, but young. And even just those first 6 to 12 months, I believe they were adopted before they were one. It shows the care that they got or didn't get, to be honest. So it's just important for you to view them differently. If you view them as a bad child or
Mm-hmm.
that they are behaving this way because they are just intrinsically not good, then it's going to be hard for both of you, and you're going to be traumatizing to them.
Well, and if you're a physical discipline person still after listening to us for this long, like, we should talk.
Mhm.
Also, every person I've ever evaluated who was physically disciplined has told me, but I was a bad kid.
Yeah, I
Every
deserved
one of
it.
them. There's a
That's what they say.
few who will say I was abused, but of the ones who don't say I was abused, they will say, but I was a bad kid. I mean, I deserved it
Hmm.
every time.
Yeah, it drives me nuts.
Same. So you can visit namus.gov for
Hmm.
missing person resources. Nat and I are going to be sharing a few more cases like we did the other week about Shelton. We're going to share some other cases, but watch this documentary. It's extremely well done. It's hard to watch, but also Kathy is just a can't miss human
Hmm.
being.
Hmm.
She got me all motivated too. And I think it's important that we share these stories of
Hmm.
missing people because the closure that comes when you get to the end of a case and you actually figure out what happened, it
Hmm.
matters.
Hmm.
Even 20, 30 years later, it matters very
Yep.
much.
Yep. This case, we know, guys, was a really heavy one. I, like Janine said, would encourage you to go watch this documentary. It's really good. It's heavy, but it's good. And thank you for hanging with us. And
We love Kathy's a vibe.
um,
Also, we have some amazing cases coming. I had lunch with somebody today who's going to come on the pod and share a case.
cool. Nice.
We have a couple guests in the works right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
We have some sponsors. You may be hearing some stuff from some sponsors in the next month or
Yeah.
two. So we have some stuff happening. So thank you for listening and supporting. Please tell your friends about us. Follow us on
Yes.
Instagram. It
You
helps us
guys,
keep it going.
we have good merch.
Well, we have the best merch.
One of the things that people told us at CrimeCon was that we had better merch.
We had the best merch.
We had better merch.
But yeah, please, please, please share this podcast with your friends. We've seen a ton of growth and we're really getting closer to being able to hit some of our goals that we've had since the beginning. And so share us, like us, comment. We'll put some stuff up there for you to answer. And thank you so much for listening. As always,
Bye, forensic friends.
I'm Janine.
And I'm Nat.
And as always, thanks for listening and join us next week for more crime, psychology, and heart.